எல்லாம் அழகா ரசிச்சு சொன்னேன். வெரி நைஸ். ஐரண துர்மத சத்ருவதோதித துர்தர நிர்ஜர சக்தி பிருதே சதுர விசார துரீண மகாசிவ தூத கிருத பிரமதாதிபதே துரித துரீஹ துராசய துர்மதி தானவதூத கிருதாந்தமதே जय जय हे महिषासुर मर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते. So, if you recall the progression of this shloka, it started off with describing her as the Giri Nandini, the mountain, daughter of the mountain, Himalaya, and the one who destroys or clears of all Danavas and Daityas, and then the Madhu Kaitabha, which is as likes and dislikes within us, right? The dualities within us, and in the form of Shiva and Shakti, right? Shiva and Shakti, Ai Jagadamba Madamba Kadamba Vanapriya Vasini, and then Shikhari Shiromani Tunga Himalaya. So Shiva and Shakti, she is clearing of all the Madhu and Kaitabha within us, which is the dualities within us. The constant discrimination is good, differentiation is not so good. We are constantly distinguishing, differentiating the world, right? We are constantly differentiating. This I want, this I don't want, this I like, this I don't like, this I want to go towards this, I want to run away from this. We're constantly in this struggle throughout all the time. So it's a constant churn, it is a constant movement that is happening. So Devi in that form, we're reaching out to her to say that remove that Madhu and Kaitabha, which means this constant in Hindi there is a word called thapeda. Thapeda, when there are waves that come, the waves hit you. So when you're in a boat or a ship or something, when you're waterbound, seabound, and you're beaten by the waves, right? Kailash, that's the word, right? Thapeda. It means you get beaten by the waves. When the waves rise, you get thrown up. When the waves go down, you get thrown down. So and we do that within ourselves. It is not somebody else is doing. We do this within ourselves constantly, right? We keep, and like yesterday we were discussing, when we create these patterns and these tracks within us, we tend to operate in the same way. So we are calling out to Mother and saying that remove these demonical tendencies within me to constantly get beaten around. Then we saw she is also the one who clears off all the other basal tendencies in the form of Chanda and Munda, etc. Okay. So now we are looking at Devi, who is Airana Durmada Shatruvadhodita Durdhara Nirjara Shakti Bhrite. So she is one who is clearing off all forms of those who are wanting to fight. Rana Durmada, which means mother means intoxication. Mother means intoxication. Somebody, when he is even Madashalini, Matangi Shyamala Devi is called Madashalini. She is called as somebody who is intoxicated. Now, what is the intoxication here? Here we're talking about Durmada. Durmada means it's not a good kind of intoxication. Why? It is Rana Durmada. So somebody who is intoxicated with the desire to fight, right? You may have come across people in your life, or you may have seen through different whatever, you know, so there are such people who exist who are trigger friendly. Appadina, there is a term. They're trigger friendly, which means you say something and before you actually try to explain what you're trying to say, they will already be on you. They'll already be retorting in a very aggressive manner. How can you say this? How could you say this? How did you say this? Why did you say this? Of all people, you said this. இருப்பா explain பண்ண விடுப்பா அப்படின்னா no. So they're, yeah, like Kalpaka saying, they're ready to fire. Rana Durmada. So they're Rana Mada, which means they're constantly engaged in this. And see, it is also, sometimes you look at it, it is a sad thing. When does somebody do this? When is someone very trigger friendly?
Insecure.
They're generally insecure about something, and they are worried. Maybe their childhood has been bad in a way that they've always been blamed for something. They've always been held saying that you have done this wrong, you have done that wrong, you didn't do this right. How much ever they have tried, even as young, they've probably been in a situation where they had to always keep their defenses on. Their whole defense system is on, right? Like a naga. We're talking about Naga Panchami today. Like the serpents and the snakes, they have always have their defenses on. And that we said is because the reptilian, the tendency of the reptile is to preserve. So there are people who are always careful that nobody should tell me anything that is wrong about me, or if I don't perceive myself that way and somebody else says, no, you are this, they get upset. So the defenses are on because they have had some bad experiences in their life. When can you be most vulnerable and be happy about it? See, a lot of people are vulnerable and sad about it because they say, people will go run over me, people will walk over me, I am nothing but a doormat. I'm not talking about such people. I'm talking about people who are vulnerable in a way to be open about their mistakes, their whatever they do, they're open about it in a very healthy way. They are people who are very secured. I always see people who are very secured are generally very vulnerable. They're open to vulnerability. They're able to be vulnerable about their own mistakes, their own shortcomings, their own flaws. Because inside there, they know everybody is flawed. Everybody is, in some way or the other, have shortcomings. And they also see that, okay, maybe through these ways, I am able to come face to face with my shortcomings so that I can work with them. So when you have your defenses low, when you have your defenses kind of on the low, you have grace that can flow in whatever form. If you have your defenses, your wall, everything all about you, again, the reptilian brain, if you've got everything up and about around you, you are trying to preserve, then you become Rana Durmada. You become so constantly aware, not aware in the way of consciousness, aware, not in the way of consciousness awareness. This awareness is just totally from a preservatory standpoint. I want to preserve my identity, my what I have, the image that I've created about myself. So then your defenses are on, and then anything comes from there, a pigeon comes from there, you'll fire at it. Right? I don't know how many of you have seen this 23 Pulikesi, the movie, Vadivelu's movie. That somebody from the other kingdom sends a pigeon with some message or something.
என்னையா சொல்ற, எதிரி படம் வரப்போறது 2 நாள் முன்னாடி வந்த நியூஸ்.
So he shoots on the pigeon and eats it up, fries it and eats it up. He says nobody is told that there is a war that's going to come. His minister says the pigeon that you ate 2 days ago was that messenger pigeon, which had the message of the war. So like that, but there's a fabulous movie. You can follow Tamil. You should watch this movie. It's really funny. It's a very good laugh. So when your defenses are on like that, right? Anything is coming towards me, I got to shoot it down. I got to kill it. Why? Because there is this insecurity. Somebody may say that I am not worth it. Somebody may say I am not up to it. Somebody may say that he doesn't deserve it. Something of the other kind. So Rana Durmada. So somebody is wanting to always trigger friendly. So she is Ai Rana Durmada Shatru Badhodita. So she is one who is Shatru Vadho Udita. So she is she's been Udita. She is manifested. She is manifested to destroy the such Shatru. Shatru Vadha Udita. Shatru Vadha means to destroy or to kill or to annihilate such enemies. She is Udita. She is risen. Then Durdhara Nirjara. And she is Durdhara, which means she is unrestrainable. She is imperishable, Nirjara, and unrestrainable, which means she is something, she is a force.
Like a Mother Gaja.
What's that?
Like a Mother Gaja.
Like a, correct. Like an elephant, a mad elephant. She is an unrestrained force. When she comes with that kind of force, then she just destroys all these enemies, these tendencies that can rise. Right? When you make Devi or mother, and today, beautiful Panchami day, when we make mother our defense, Durga, she is called Durga because she is the fort. If you make Durga as your fort, as your Durga, then she is impenetrable, Nirjara. She cannot be penetrated. She cannot be tampered with. Instead of having our own defenses on, instead of trying to build our own defense structure, our own Chakravyuha, we offer that responsibility to Devi. We tell her, you become my Durga. I am not going to build my Durga. Because whatever I build is going to be it can easily be destroyed. Why? Because I build it based on my anxieties, my fears, my aspirations, my desires. All of that, it's built with that. The defenses I build is all with that. It's very easy. One knock, it'll fall. Right? See, it doesn't take very long for somebody to actually trigger us. Right? Some form or the other. And particularly people who work a lot, do a lot, such people become extremely trigger friendly because they're worried that somebody may say that you're not working enough. And they'll be like, oh my God, so much I've done, yet I have to hear this. How much more should I do? And how much ever I do, it is not enough.
You're all thankless.
Alpaka is in a great mood today.
Came home early, so I'm sitting down to enjoy satsang.
I'm missing Sundar Mama today.
Hey, Mama. Counter வந்துட்டே இருக்கும்.
So instead of we building those defenses, we make Durga or Devi or Mahishasura Mardini, we make her, Ambal make her as our fort. Then she becomes Durdhara Nirjara. She becomes something that is impenetrable. She becomes something that is an unrestrained force that will clear off all the Shatru Vadhodita. Rana Durmada Shatru. Okay, the way we have to read it is I Rana Durmada Shatru Vadhodita. So what kind of Shatru? The ones who are these trigger friendly people. And it is not trigger friendly people outside. We are not talking about somebody who's trigger friendly, she's going to come and destroy them. No, we are saying the tendency within us to quickly jump to conclusions, to quickly jump to defending ourselves. And there's something that we all do. We are very quick to defend ourselves. It's important. You can't be a doormat and let people walk over you. But at the same time, we have to recognize that keeping up our defenses all the time is an extremely exhausting affair. It's extremely energy depleting activity. So she is what? Airana Durmada Shatru Vadhodita Durdhara Nirjara Shakti Bhrite. So she is the Shakti. She is that nourishing, or she is that energy that carries this force. Ai means, as we said, we are referring to her, we are calling out to her. Ai. Right? So that is what Ai means. Then Chatura Vichara Dhurina Mahashiva Duta Krita Pramathadhipate. Chatura Vichara Dhurina Mahashiva Duta Krita Pramathadhipate. So this line is about when Shiva was made as a messenger. Shiva was made a messenger to go and tell the Asuras and the Daityas and the Danavas that don't engage in this fight. It is of no good to anybody. So in the Devi Mahatmyam, there is a place where goes a Shiva Duti. Shiva Duti. So it's a form of Shakti herself sending Shiva as a messenger to go and communicate to the opposite, the enemy camp, as a truce message. Say they don't. Let's not engage in this fight. Let us resolve. See, it is even within ourselves, if you look at this, to pull out a bad tendency is very difficult. It's best for it to resolve and dissolve on its own. Slowly dissolve it. Because the moment you pluck and pull and throw, there is always some residue that will remain. Right? Adi veroda edukano. You have to uproot it from the roots of it. That will take a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy from the outside, which is why we need a guru. We need somebody like somebody who can actually work with us through the spiritual process to uproot these things within us. That uprooting just by ourselves requires tremendous amount of energy. The only thing we can do is constantly is by dissolving it so that it doesn't germinate any further. It doesn't create new roots. It doesn't create new flowers and leaves and all that. These unuseful tendencies that we carry. So it is Shiva Duti. Shiva is coming there as a messenger to say that it's okay, let's not engage in this fight. It's going to be disastrous, right? It will shake you up. See, even in the Mahabharata, if you read it, you'll know that Krishna, till the decision of the war is after every other possibilities have been exhausted. Right? The war does not just happen like that. The war, in fact, there are date references. The war actually happens when, Yudhishthira or Arjuna, and they are all above 75 years of age, 70, 75 years of age. So which means there has been so many years of trying to adjust, trying to accommodate, trying to work things out, trying to negotiate, diplomacy. So for at least 70, 80 years of their life, they have tried diplomacy in all different forms. And Krishna was also an important aid in trying to bring about diplomacy. But when all forms of diplomacy fails, then there's no other option, then you go for war. Right? So here also, she is sending Shiva and saying that let's not. And she's saying Chatura Vichara. Chatura Vichara means he is a very clever. The Shiva is very clever. He's distinguished by his cleverness or his intelligence. Chatura Vichara, which means he can. She is empowering him that you're a clever one. You will have the way of words. So go and talk to them nicely, sweetly. Because Shiva is known to be somebody who can be approached easily. See, in the Puranic literature, you will not see Devi having sweet talk with anybody. Nor does Narayana. Narayana is difficult to kind of obtain Narayana's or Vishnu's grace. Or to get a boon from Narayana becomes quite difficult in the way the Puranic literature is authored. But Shiva, it's easy. It's easy to communicate to him. It's easy to reach out to him. That is why he's also called Bhole. Bhole means somebody who is very naive. The term bhola in Hindi means somebody who is very naive. Romba easy avara ஏமாத்திடலாம் அப்படி. So Shiva that way is very easy to approach, is easy to get to, and thereby receive his blessing or grace from him. Because that way he comes across as a very compassionate person. Because most of the time he is in meditation, he's quietly sitting and meditating. Somebody comes and asks him something, Cheri pona porda, I'll give you. That's how he is. Unless you ignite the anger in him and then he becomes a Rudra, he becomes Rudra. Otherwise, Shiva is Bholenath, Shiva Shambho. So that aspect of him is very compassionate. So she sends him as somebody who can go and talk through this to them. Chatura Vichara Dhurina Mahashiva Duta Krita. He's made into a Duta, into a messenger. Pramatha Adhipate. He is somebody who is the Adhipata of Pramatha, all the various beings. He's Pashupati, right? He's Pashupati. So he goes to kind of talk it out to the enemy camp to say that let's not engage in this fight. Durita duriha durashaya durmati danava duta krutanta mate. So then durita duriha is now despite that, so she sends Shiva as a Duta. Despite that, those who know the story of Shumbha Nishumba, they send a Duta. So Danava Duta is a Duta from the opposite camp. They still send a Duta and they say that ask Devi to come and marry Shumbha Nishumba. They want to marry Devi. Shumbha Nishumba, they want to marry Devi. Ask her to marry him and we will stop fighting. We don't want to fight also, but ask her to marry. So she ends that guy also. So on one side, she actually sends a Duta to stop, but then that doesn't work. And then they send a Duta who's, the name of the Duta is Sugriva, probably. A Duta who comes to pursue further this idea that you must marry our Danavaraja, Shumbha Nishumba. And she she kills them, right? Um, Durashaya Durmati. So he comes with this. See, Durashaya means malicious intent. The ashaya that he carries is of malicious intent. So when you're going to Devi, when he's going to Devi, or the Duta, the Danava Duta is coming to Devi with the intent to own her. Okay. So then what she does, Durita Duriha, she gives it and brings him to an end. Krita Anta Mate. So she brings that individual, that Duta and the Shumbha Nishumba to an end. And why is that? See, they are also coming and asking for Devi, right? As a Bhakta, we are also going and asking for Devi. As a Danava, as an Asura, he is also asking for Devi. What is the difference? Ajay, Devi will say, the Asura will say that I am also asking, I want to own her. I agree that she is great, she is fabulous, she is wonderful, she is Shakti, she is this, she is that. I want to own her. Right? This is what a Danava or an Asura is doing. In this case, they are wanting to own Shakti. And she destroys that. So how do we read this? How do we look at this? In our lives, there are times we also want to do something like this. See, a lot of tantrikas, those are familiar with the ways of tantrikas, they engage in certain arts, right? Energy, arts of the energy, where they try to control energy. They try to control and use it for their own desires. And you would have read many stories, movies you would have read and seen. You see those tantrikas at the end of the day, that the thing that they try to control and use and do or create harm in the world, it comes back and destroys them. So what is the difference between a bhakta and such a person? A bhakta is also going to Devi and also wants Devi, and an asura or a danava like Shumbha Nishumba also wants Devi. It is the attitude in which we approach Devi. See, one of the Kalis, those who are familiar with the form of Kali, you will notice that Shiva is at the feet of Kali. Right? Correct. Intention, Mami. So Shiva is at the feet of Kali. Now, what does it mean? It means that Shiva himself has to surrender for Shakti to be in an operable realm. Because Shakti is this unrestrained energy. Durdhara Nirjara. That is the term that is used. She is this unrestrained, imperishable energy that is there. But it needs to be managed, not controlled, but managed. Right? Shiva himself allows himself to surrender to Devi so that Devi is managed. That Kali, the form of Kali, which is this unrestrained energy, to manage that. How does Shiva go? Shiva doesn't go to try to control her. Although Shiva, in that context, Shiva is the husband. She must listen to the husband, right? How does he go? He goes in the attitude of surrender. to bring that energy into a certain level of, in an operable level. In the same way, when we are approaching these energies, again, Naga Panchami, we're talking about energies. When we approach these energies, we should know what our intention is. If I'm wanting to control the energy so that I can use it for something, a material desire in the world, then be ready for its repercussions also. If you understand the energy has an intelligence of its own, it has a consciousness of its own. Shakti, forget Shakti as Devi, as Ambal, this form, Kanna Mukavai, forget that. Just look at pure energy and understand that this energy has intelligence, it has consciousness. And if we approach that energy with that understanding and you let it, you kind of go in a manner of reverence, worshipful attitude, and some amount of surrender, then that energy will become beneficial for you. See, electricity that flows is beneficial for us only when it flows through these wires and comes into the bulb. That gives me light, I am able to do the things that I want to do. Right? If that electrical wire suddenly comes and I hold it and it's passing through me, it's going to cause harm. It is unrestrained. 240 volts passes through me. It is not for my well-being. It is for my well-being if this energy flows into the fan and moves the fan, into the air conditioning, moves the air conditioning, it flows into the bulb and gives me light. Then it is for my well-being. To harness the energy is what is important, not to control. Controlling energy or any form of these natural forces will always put human beings at the receiving end of whatever it gives later. Right? Which is why we see so many of these natural disasters also happen, random places these are happening, and with the intensity that it happens, human beings have no way of, they just have to surrender to it completely when it unleashes its wrath. Why? Because in some ways we have tried to control it. So even within ourselves, when we have to always remember whatever forms of energies that we engage with, whether it be in the form of the spiritual sadhana, the energies that we're talking about, or the energies that we are trying to use for our day-to-day transactions, it's important to recognize that there must be a certain level of reverence within. Namakulla, there must be this reverence, regard. Oh mother, it is your energy, it is your Shakti, it is you that is flowing through me as this Mano Shakti, Vak Shakti, Chakshu Shakti, all kinds of Shakti, it is you who is flowing through me. May you flow well. This attitude you go, then mother becomes yours. If we go with the attitude of Shumbha Nishubha, you send a Duta and you say that I want to own you. I want to become your master. I want to control you. Then what happens? Then her wrath will unleash and she will destroy. And no human being, animal, creature, Danava, Daitya, Kinnara, Yaksha, nobody can stand in front of the force of nature. Nobody can. Because it unleashes, that's it. Right? That is where she is, this Durdhara Nirjara. So, this particular verse it presents this idea where we approach mother, we approach this form. Say Rana Durmada, what is that? She is Rana Durmada Shatru Vadhodita. So she is the one who removes this tendency to be jumpy, to be very defensive all the time. She helps us clear that. And also at the same time, she does this when we go and approach her in this attitude of surrender, in this attitude of reverence and regard. So even on a Panchami day, when we offer our prayers to Mother in the form of Naga Devata or in the form of Devi herself, when we offer some puja, some archana or something, we go and stand in the altar, we should remember, we should bow down, saying that it is your grace, Mother, that is making me do this today. Even Avan Arulal, Avan Tal Vanangi. So I am prostrating down in front of you is your grace. I am prostrating, I'm standing here and I'm doing this, I'm offering, my hands are moving to put a flower at your feet is the Shakti that you have offered to me. So may you fill me with that Shakti. May you fill me with that grace. May you fill me with that exuberance and joy and fulfillment. Right? In this whole very important thing, these are, of course, on one side we say, in the spiritual sadhana, we should cut down ego, we should bring ego down and all that. But how? These are the ways. Because the way ego, okay, we'll close with this quickly. Another representation of Naga is also the ego. Okay. So again, the context, Naga Panchami, you see, ego is also represented as a snake. And it's very, very tricky to catch that ego. We will never know when it brings its head up. See, you'll notice a snake that is trying to come out of a hole. And when you bring your attention, it will quickly slip back in. Right? Because it's so alert. Any movement, tappan, it will go back. So, Nochur Swami in his talk, he says, our ego is like the snake. Whenever you want to bring your attention to ego, it will go inside. It will say, "Nah, I'm not here. I didn't do anything." But all the chaos that ego will come out and create. So it is also important to know the sliminess, the nature of the snake, that how tricky it is to catch hold of it, which means it's very tricky to actually look at our real nature. Very tricky to look at our real nature and say that, yes, I need to see, this is the problem. I need to fix this. I need to look at myself honestly. Honestly, I look at myself and say that I've got to fix this thing. Right? So that comes when we fill ourselves with this reverence and regard, not fear. Don't fear. Don't fear the snake. Don't fear the snake. Don't fear God. Don't fear Devi. Don't fear the Supreme. Don't fear. Develop reverence. Reverence is very different from fear. Reverence means you can stand up like that and yet have a worshipful attitude. You stand up for yourself. You stand up with the confidence that, yes, Bhagavan is with me. Krishna is with me all the time. Devi is with me all the time. I stand up, yet I bow down in reverence because it is their grace that is making me do what I do. Which is why, in fact, my mother will always say that even Nalla Pambu vandu yariyume, nobody, the king cobra, it's called Nalla Pambu, the king cobra will not harm anybody unless you try to harm it. Right? So that also has, so it's the same thing within us. Don't fear it. Have reverence, then that energy will work for you. So this is a verse that says that how Devi is available for us to destroy and clear out all these negativities that are there, but we have to develop that reverence and love and worshipful attitude. With that intention, we go to her. Aidrana durmada shatruva dhodita durdhara nirjara shakti bhrute chatura vichara dhurina mahashiva duta krita pramathadhipate durita duriha durashaya durmati danava duta krutantamate जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते। ॐ कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि। सदाशिवायेति समर्पयामि, जगदम्बिकायै इति समर्पयामि, सद्गुरुनाथायेति समर्पयामि। हरि ओं तत्सद्गुरुभ्यो नमः। गुरुदेव।
नमस्कार।